Hello there and welcome. I'm Ole Brøgger, and if you're new here, I really hope I'll earn your subscription today. In this video, I'm going to paint Inferno from Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. We have a town, 2 heroes, and 7 creatures. First, I'm going to prime them, so we better get started. First, we need to prime all these miniatures, and as usual, I will start with priming them black, spraying it with my airbrush from below. Then I will spray it with a light gray from the top to give it a central highlight. This will emulate the lighting effect on the miniature. To highlight the details, I will dry brush with a matte white.
Armageddon's blade is no longer a threat. However, King Lucifer Cregan still sits upon the throne of Eofold. What few clans remain have rallied to defend their king and his lost cause. Arathian spies tell us the Demon King has requested support from the dungeon overlords of Nyon. We cannot confirm this. If it is true, we cannot allow Lucifer to receive this aid. We must dethrone the Demon King. Time is short, but now we wield Armageddon's blade. It is time we take Armageddon into the heart of hell itself.
Inferno is an evil alignment town with demonic and heretic hero classes. I will start using a dark wash all over this model to dull all the gray tones down and give it some shadows. I let the wash dry for a couple of hours, and then I will use this ash gray to make some highlights. I will primarily highlight the visible bricks and some of the lined parts. On almost all these miniatures there will be some kind of flames or light effect, and to enhance this effect I used a white matte paint and I watered it down to give it a solid bright background in all the windows on the castle. I'll use this molten lava with a dry brush all around the whites and on the sides of the windows. I took a bit brighter orange called Flickering Flame. I watered this down the same way as I did with the matte white, so it will flow into the recesses of the windows. To make some more light effect, I will use this demonic yellow and just make a tiny little line in the middle of the windows. We also need some flames on the torches in front of the building. And for this I will start with the brightest yellow and work my way up to the darkest orange. And to finish off this light effect, I will use my tiny dry brush with the molten lava orange all over the torches and around the windows again to give the glow effect from the light. I also gave the rocks around the town some dry brushing with the molten lava. And now this town is ready to host some of the infernal heroes and creatures. Imp and Familiars are the level 1 creatures of Inferno. Imps and Familiars are among the weakest units in the game. They are, however, produced in great numbers. I'll use this Raging Rose for the base color of the wings. I want them to be a bit more deep red than the rest of the body. Oh, I almost forgot my handle. This is just a wooden dowel. It's made out of an old curtain hanger that I just cut up in pieces and made these handles. On top of it, there is a double adhesive pad. I didn't think this color was deep red enough, so I used this blood callus to make it a bit darker. And for the familiar skin, I will use the speed paint Aged Hide. Working with speed paints, you have to be very generous. You have a longer working time than the ordinary acrylics, and it's easy to remove if there's something puddling up where you don't want it to go. And for the base, I will use this Grim Black speed paint. The speed paint is now dry, and I can use this blood callus to make some more highlights. I will do some more highlights with a brighter rosy color, and for this I will use the Moonstone skin to make some more highlighting, and put in some more transitions to the familiar skin. A brigade grey for the horns and teeth. To put some more depth into the skin, I will use this dark skin shade. When we're using a wash, everything is getting dulled down, so I will use the moonstone skin to make all the highlights a bit brighter again. I want the eyes to be yellow, and why not use a demonic yellow for a demonic creature. I also use the demonic yellow for the nails and claws. Crowd cover scenics is my new favorite basing material, and I will use the Forges of Doom. This is lava rocks mixed with some orange pigment that will give the effect of floating lava below the rocks. I'll remove the miniature from the handle and use the crowd cover basing glue and spread it out with a brush and dip the base into the mixture. And now this little familiar is ready to enter the armies of Inferno. This is a Gog, or if you upgrade it, it will be a Magog. Gogs and Magogs are the level 2 creatures of Inferno. And for the skin, I will use this speed paint aged hide. Gogs and Magogs hurl fireballs and attack with their claws at close range. And the base, I will use the grim black speed paint. And for the horns and claws, I will use the brigade grey. Some greedy gold metallic color for this Magog's greedy gold braces. And for the horns, back spikes and tail, I will use this palette bone speed paint. And some demonic yellow for the eyes. There is a lot of fire in this miniature, so I will start painting all the crevices on this fireball with a matte white. When painting fire, you will start where the heat is most intense, and very hot fire is almost white or a very bright yellow, and the colder it gets, it will be more red. So I will start building up with the brightest color in the crevices and put in some more oranges and end up with the red. And to finalize the base, I will use this crowd cover Forges of Doom. First, some glue, spread out with a brush, dip the base in the material, and now this Magog is ready to enter the armies of Inferno. This is a Hellhound, or actually it's a Cerberus. It has the 3 heads. Cerberus is the upgraded level 3 creature from Inferno. They are recruited from the kennels. These demon canines have a fearsome bite and good mobility. Cerberus have 3 heads and can attack in 3 adjacent enemies at a single attack. And as a base color, I will use this aged hide speed paint. And some grimdark speed paint for the base. I will use some matte white for the eyes. Later I will put in another reddish color on top of that. And I will use some white on the nails and claws and their teeth, and I will cover that with a speed paint later. They also have some fur, and for that I will use the bootstrap brown. I will use an old makeup brush and just dry brush the bootstrap brown on top of all the fur. And to make some more highlights, I will use this Tundra Taupe, whatever it's called. It's an ochre and tan color. And I will dry brush that as well. I think this needs to be a bit darker, so I will use some noble skin speed paint in the places where I can see all the fur. And some pure red for the eyes. I'll just need a tiny bitty drop of this in each eye, and some gunmetal for the collar and chain around its neck, or necks. And to finish up this awesome model, I will use in crowd cover the Forges of Doom, some glue, spread out with a brush, and then I will dip it into the mixture of Forges of Doom. I think I've lost some of the shadows, so I will give it a strong tone here and there, not all over the miniature, just to give it some more shadows. I really love this beast. They are awesome, and I think now these Cerberus are ready to enter the armies of Inferno. Demons and Horned Demons are the level 4 creatures of Inferno. They are recruited from the Demon Gate. But one thing is also very special. They can also be summoned by the PitLords, which we are going to paint later. And this demon will get the base color called Fire Drake, which is a speed paint from the Army Painter. And I think this needs a bit more red tone than the Fire Drake can provide, but it's still a good base color. But I will buff it up with some Dusk Red, which is a reddish brown. And the base will get some of the Grim Black. I let it dry for an hour, and then it's time to use this Fur Brown, which is also a reddish brown but a bit brighter. It's time to build up some skin on this beast. I'll use a matte white for the eyes, because later I will put in a drop of yellow. The spiky tail and the elbows will also get a drop of white. Because I'm going to use this palette bone on top of the white on the tail and the elbows and back. And I think it will give the perfect yellow tint to the eyes of this miniature. Some greedy gold for this demon's armor and braces. And the gunmetal I will use for the change. I don't want to dull the colors too much down, so this time I will use soft tone for the skin and for the change to make them a bit more rusty. And finally the base will be dipped into the Forges of Doom. I think the skin was dulled down a bit too much by the soft tone, so I decided to use some of the Fur Brown to make some highlights. And now this horned demon beast is ready to enter the armies of Inferno. Efreet and PitLord are the level 5 creature of Inferno. Upgraded Pit Fiends will become a PitLord. They use their whip to make a lot of damage, and the PitLord is able to summon demons. I will use this Basilisk Red for the skin. I had some trouble with my camera in this recording of the PitLord, so it is a bit laggy video and I apologize for that. I think the Basilisk Red is a bit too pink in its color, so I will use the speed paint Slaughter Red and just use it as a wash on top of the skin. The Tree Ancient Brown is a good choice for the skirt or his pants or whatever it is he's wearing. I'll also use it on the handle of the whip. I will use this worn stone for the skulls and the horns and necklace. It's a good off-white color, almost into the beige. I mixed a tiny bit of the worn stone into the Tree Ancient and used that for the whip. Some Grim Black for the base. I'll use this pure red to highlight the skin, but if you look at the table, there's also a strong tone there, and unfortunately I lost the footage of me applying the strong tone wash to the whole model. But at the same time, the lagging of the video recording stopped, so now the video is running smooth again. And the PitLord will also get the same basing material, the Forges of Doom. Glue, dip, and that's pretty much it. And now this PitLord is done, and it's ready to enter the armies of Inferno and get into battle, summon some demons. Efreet and Efreet Sultan are the level 6 creatures of Inferno. They are recruited into Inferno forces from the realm of fire magic, and therefore they are immune to all fire spells. I'll just jump right into it and start out with the Slaughter Red speed paint for the skin. We're going to paint a lot of fire in this miniature, so the Brain Matter Beige will be a very good off-white color to put in all the cavities. When painting fire, you have to work the opposite way. It has to be bright where the fire is the hottest, and that will be inside the fire. So therefore we have the brightest color inside and the darkest color outside. The opposite effect of almost all other ways to paint. I'll use this bright gold for the bracers and the jewelry around his hat. For the rest of the hat, I'll use this Tomb King tan. And I actually think it's not a hat, it's a turban. I think it's called a turban. And now we better get that fire going. I'll use this inner light for the base color of the yellow parts of the flame. I'll put the yellow on top of most of the white I put in earlier, but I will still leave a tiny dot here and there of the white just to make it pop a bit. And while we wait for the yellow to dry, I will use this dragon red to make some highlights on the skin. Now we can step up the flame to a more orange color called the flickering flame. And this time I don't want to paint over the yellow, I will just paint all around the edge of the yellow on the higher points of the model and flame. And then we can step it up to a darker orange called molten lava. And here I will just paint the highest point of the flame with this darker orange. And of course we also need some grim black for the base. And now I got some brain matter base back on the brush, and I will do a couple of highlights in the deepest cavities of the flame. And using the dragon red as the darkest flame color, I will make some very thin lines on the highest points of all the flames. The fire is done, and I will use the strong tone on the hat and the spikes on his shoulders. And I will use the dragon red to make some of the final highlights. Of course, we need to do something about the base, so I will have to open up this Fortress of Doom. It will need some glue, and this time I don't want to put it directly into the Fortress of Doom. There's not much room on this base for so much basing material, so I will carefully put in a rock at the time with a tweezer. And I think this is pretty much it for this Efreet Sultan, and he's ready to enter the armies of Inferno. Devils, the most evil bastards in the Inferno army. Also upgraded to an archdevil. This is the level 7 creature of Inferno. And for this devil I will use the Slaughter Red as I have done for most of this army. Devils and archdevils can teleport to any hex on the battlefield. And if they are up against angels, they will do 150% more damage. I accidentally overpainted some of the armor with the Slaughter Red, so I will try to fix it with this Gravelord Grey, but that didn't work. And there was still a lot of puddles of Slaughter Red around the armor, so I tried to remove some of the puddles with a Q-tip. And that didn't turn out well either. And finally I decided to paint it over with some white. And I was too impatient, so the Slaughter Red were still not dried up and some tiny puddles were still not cured. So now he's got a pink armor. But I think we can still fix this and make up for it later. Now I have let it dry for at least 15 minutes and I'm pretty sure that the paint is dry. And now I can paint over the armor with this deep gray. It is one of the Army Painter's Fanatic paints and the pigmentation is very high and the coverage is very good, and I should be able to cover up the pink part of the armor. For the eyes and the horns I will use this ancient stone, which is a yellowish white. I rarely used my matte black directly on a miniature, but this time I will actually use it on his eyebrows, beard and hair. For the handle on the scythe I will use this command khaki. And you might notice here that I also used the matte black for his nails on his hand and toes. I'll use some of this brigandine brown for the fur on his back. I really love metallic paints, so I'll use this plate mail metal for the scythe. Some greedy gold for all the edges on the armor and the armored part of his skirt. And now some strong tone all over the model except for where we are going to paint some fire on the scythe. And the base will also get some of the grim black speed paint. The wash is now dry. I actually let it dry overnight, and now I'll use some highlight on the skin with this dragon red. It's very important to keep in mind when using washes and they have dried up, you will dull down the whole miniature colors one tone. So you have to do some highlighting after the wash is dry to get some vibrance back into the colors. The first highlights, I will usually use colors I already used before the wash. And this time I will use the ancient stone for the horns to make some highlights. And the deep gray to highlight some of the parts of the armor. We also need some flames on the scythe, and I will start with the brightest color of yellow I have, which is the inner light. And then I'll step it up with the lava orange. And as I explained before, the darker the orange and red are, the colder the heat. So the hottest spots is the brightest spots. And for the top of the flames, I will use the molten lava. I don't want to make too much lightning effects, but I thought that it was a great opportunity for me on this specific miniature to use some dry brushing with the molten lava just to make a tiny bit of a lightning effect. I'm actually starting to be good at forgetting pressing the record button. But this time I don't want to use the Forges of Doom on the base. But as you can see here, I used some very watered down molten lava and let it run into the cavities of the base to make it look like some floating lava. And now I will dry brush it with black to take care of the overspill. And to make some more highlights in the lava, I will use the inner light, and this time I will thin it very much down and just let it flow into the cavities of the base. I'm actually very proud of this paint job. I think he turned out pretty awesome. I spent about 3.5 hours painting him, and that's a long time for me to paint a single miniature. But now, this dude is ready to enter the armies of Inferno. We also need to paint the two heroes. We have two miniatures representing the heroes. One is for the might and the other is for the magic. We have two magic heroes. We have Siron, which is a heretic, and Sidar, which is also a heretic. And the might heroes are Fiona, which is a demonic hero, and that's the same as a might hero. And then we have Rashka, which is also a demonic hero. I'll start out painting the magic hero, and I will use some burnished red for the horse. Some grim black for the tail and the mane. I put in a drop of speed paint medium to the grim black and painted the cloak and cape. Some slaughter red for the skin. This is the color I have used for most of the miniatures in this Inferno faction. I also used the same color on the decoration on the harnesses. Dark wood speed paint for the boots. And I might as well use the same color for the stick on the torch. And some howling sand for... I wanted to have some more vibrancy to the red, because I think it was already dulled down and I don't know why. So I used some pure red to make some highlight, but this will get a wash later. I didn't think the howling sand speed paint worked for me on the saddle, so I used this command khaki and painted it over. And then we might as well remove the howling sand and put it back in the box. And again, I'll use this matte black to make some lining and fix some of the mistakes on the edge of the cloak. There was a couple of spots where I had overpainted with the pure red. I'll use the matte white for the eyes of the horse. And also the eyes of the hero. Some bright gold for all the golden decorations. That's primarily buttons on the harness. And then we can give the whole miniature some strong tone. And some grim black for the base. I'm almost running out of grim black, but fortunately enough, I've already ordered a new bottle. I've let everything dry for over an hour, and now I'm positive that the strong tone is dry. So I can put in some new white into the horse's eye because it was dulled down a bit too much. And the same thing goes for the eyes of the hero. And like I said earlier, when you're using a wash, you will dull down all the colors, and to put back some vibrancy, I will use some of the same colors for the skin on the hero and the harnesses on the horse. There is also some flames on this hero, and I dulled down all the flame parts with the wash, so I will use a matte white to make it brighter again. And now we need some flames. I will use my 3 go-to colors making flames, the inner light, the flickering flame, and the molten lava. And on this base, I won't use the Forges of Doom either. I will use the same technique and thin down some of the flame colors and let them run into the cavity and use that effect for some kind of lava. And now this hero is ready to lead the armies of Inferno. We also need to paint the Might Hero. And if you look at the table, I've kept all the colors that I used on the previous hero, because I think it could be some sort of fun if I used the same color scheme for this hero. Burnished red for the horse, grim black for the base, the mane and the tail. Slaughter red for the harnesses and the hero skin. Some dark wood speed paint for the stick to the torch. And this time I skipped the howling sand and jumped right into the command khaki for the saddle. I didn't use the gunmetal on the other hero, but this hero needs some metallics, so the armor, gunmetal. And the bright gold for all the buttons and other decorations. Even his shoulder pads, which is also gold. I would have used the pure red for this, but accidentally I grabbed the wrong red color, and yeah, it doesn't matter. It's from the warm red triad and it has more warmth to it, so no one will hardly notice. A dab of white into the eyes of the hero and the horse. And then a strong tone wash all over the hero except for where we're going to paint the flames. The wash is now dry and we can start to do some highlights, and I will just stick to the other red color that I started out with. And to differentiate the harnesses, I brought back in the pure red to make the highlights for that, so there will be another red tone to that, so it won't look like the hero's skin. I brought out the fire colors, and I will start with the molten lava on the base, thin it down very much and let it run into the cavities of the base. And then we can start painting the flames, and I will start with the inner fire as the base color and some flickering flame on top of that, and finalize it with the molten lava. I spent almost 3 hours on the first hero, and this hero I was done within an hour, and now he's ready to lead one of the armies of Inferno. I'll use this pure red, and I have this rule for myself. If I paint the rim of the base, I am done painting the miniature, and I will not put another drop of paint into it. the Inferno Faction is done. I spent almost a month and a half painting all these miniatures, and we are finally done. I think I have improved a lot painting fire, and I got a good practice on all these miniatures. But let's have a closer look on how these turned out. Unfortunately, this was the last faction of my friend's miniatures that I was able to paint. I have ordered all the rest of the factions, but they haven't arrived yet, so I don't know when the next video of painting me the Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game miniatures, will be up here on YouTube. But I promise you, I won't let you down, they will come. And this is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to like and subscribe, and I'll be back soon with more videos for you. Have an awesome day.